Have you ever wondered if the AI in your health app could actually understand your culture? Well, today we're going to explore this really cool journey from someone's personal story all the way to the lines of code that could make our technology way more inclusive. Okay, so let's just dive right in. We need to start by looking at a pretty big problem, a real blind spot with a lot of the AI tools we use every single day, especially when it comes to our health. I mean, really think about it for a second. When you use a health app, or maybe a chatbot, does it feel like it gets you, your life, your background, your traditions? For so many people all over the world, the answer is a big, fat nope. And this quote right here, this is a real story from a user, and it just makes the problem so incredibly clear. Imagine a standard health app just relentlessly pinging you with medication reminders while you're observing a religious fast. It's not just annoying, it's completely tone deaf, and honestly could be pretty upsetting for the person using it. So what's really going on here? Well, the root of the problem is that most health AI is built with this top-down, one-size-fits-all mentality. It's usually designed by a bunch of tech experts in a room somewhere without much, if any, input from actual community members. And that creates this massive gap, right? It leaves out all the cultural needs and the real-world context of the very people the tech is supposed to be helping. All right, so how in the world do we fix this? Well, the solution starts by basically flipping the entire script. We have to start by listening to the community first. And that brings us to this powerful idea called co-design. It's actually a pretty simple concept, but it's a total game changer. Instead of tech companies just guessing what people need, they build it with them. This means bringing real people, community members, into the design process from day one and making their lived experiences the actual foundation of the technology. Okay, but this leads us to a huge technical puzzle. How do you take a personal story, something that's full of emotion and nuance, and translate that into the super precise logical code that a computer can actually understand? How do you possibly bridge that gap? Well, it turns out there's a brilliant solution. It's a specialized pipeline that uses something called natural language processing, or NLP. And if you're not familiar, NLP is just the field of AI that's all about helping computers understand our messy human language. Now, I know this diagram looks a little intimidating, but just think of it like a cultural translator. It's so cool. On one end, you feed in all these user stories that you've gathered from community workshops. And on the other end, out pops these perfectly structured technical instructions that developers can actually use to build the software. Let's break down how it works. It really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, you collect the raw, authentic user stories from the community. Second, you use natural language processing and these super powerful AIs called large language models, or LLMs, to sift through the stories and pull out the key cultural details. And then third, the system automatically writes out the technical requirements needed for the chatbot. It's that simple. And here you can see it in action. It's kind of magical. On the left, you have that user story we talked about fasting. And on the right, look at that. That's the output, a concrete technical requirement. It says the chatbot needs contextual reminder logic that can adjust to religious fasting periods. It's a perfect translation from a human need directly into a machine instruction. The real magic behind all of this is the incredible power of large language models. These things are just amazing at understanding our messy, unstructured human language. They can pick up on those subtle cultural nuances, completely automate the really tricky task of writing up system specs, and by doing that, they seriously cut down on the chances for human error when translating these important details. Okay, so this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But the real question is, does this whole co-design thing actually work? Does it create a better AI? Let's take a look at the proof. Because this is a million-dollar question, isn't it? Does all this extra effort of listening and co-designing actually lead to a real, measurable improvement? Does it make the AI more culturally aware and, genuinely more helpful for the person on the other end? And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. This chart says it all. It compares a standard off-the-shelf LLM with one that's been fine-tuned using local, culturally specific data. And while they're both pretty accurate, just look at that score for cultural appropriateness. The fine-tuned model score just skyrockets. It shows it's way, way more relevant and useful to the community. And that's really the bottom line here. When you ground your AI in the real, lived experiences of the community it's supposed to serve, you end up with a tool that isn't just more culturally sensitive, it's just plain better. it's more effective. Inclusivity and performance, it turns out, really do go hand in hand. So how do we take this idea and apply it more broadly? Because this isn't just about one single project. It's about creating a whole new blueprint for how we build fair and equitable AI for absolutely everyone. So researchers have actually developed this 10-stage roadmap to help guide the creation of equitable health AI. It gives organizations a really clear, step-by-step framework they can follow to make sure that principles like fairness and inclusion are baked into the process at every single stage. Now, we don't have time to go through all 10, but let's just highlight 3 that are absolutely crucial. Stage 2, diversity and collaboration, is all about making sure you have a diverse design team from the very beginning. Stage 4, co-production, well, that's the whole code design process we've been talking about. And stage 7, service evaluation and auditing, is super important. It makes sure that even after the AI is launched, you're constantly checking it to make sure it's staying fair and effective. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, this is about so much more than just a clever bit of code or a new methodology. It really represents a fundamental shift in philosophy, a move away from designing technology for people to designing it with them. And that ensures our technology actually serves all of humanity in all its amazing diversity. And that really leaves us with a final, powerful thought. What we've looked at today shows a clear path forward, a way for our technology to reflect the incredible richness of human experience, simply because we all had a hand in building it. So I'll leave you with this. What kind of AI would you build?